Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Banjo, and I'm back again this week with another book club event for Gnitavonni books. And as we have been doing, we try to open the event with good evening. It's another edition of a book club event. We talk about books, and we try and do a bit of intro with the music. The music, of course, always relevant to the show because I'm talking about the jewels of the Yoruba song. And what we're trying to do is to talk about books that have been of interest to people. And one of the books we're talking about today is a book by Ben Okri. This is The Famished Road. The Famished Road is a book that won Ben Okri the Booker Prize in 1991. Seems like a long time ago. That is 19 years ago when Ben Okri won the Booker Prize for this book, The Famished Road. And Ben Okri is a Nigerian British writer. He has when he won this prize, I went on to do a lot of interesting stuff. Became a writer in residence in Oxford. He's done a lot of interesting stuff, and got an MBE from the Queen for his work in writing literature. But the significance of The Famished Road is that a very chunky book. Significance of it is that it's one of those books that brings African thought, the African belief systems into the mainstream. And if you think about the Abiku concept, which is the Prince idea in Yoruba cosmology, it's common in African society about the child that goes and returns and dies and returns. And also the idea of the spirit children, like in Yoruba they call them Emere children, who inhabit the world of the living and the world of the spirit. What Ben Okri succeeded in doing is to write this story, this book, about such characters. And when you read from the beginning and the first sentence, and it says, in the beginning there was a river. The river became a road, and the road branched out to the whole world. And because the road was once a river, it was always hungry. These is kind of there's kind of things that brings almost fright and anxiety about what is he talking about. Of course, when you compare that kind of idea in this book to the idea of the notion of the hungry road, and when you think about the concept of the Ogun, for example, Ogun is a deity in Yoruba cosmology, and he is the spirit god for travelers, motor drivers, and people, iron benders, and things like that. Anything to do with metal. And that the road is always hungry. The road wants to devour people. And you combine that with this idea in Ben Okri's book about the road being always hungry. But when you look at the description of the famished road, it kind of encompasses the world of the living and the world of the dead, and everything in between. It's quite a chunky read. It doesn't just end. It's not a book that is frozen in a time of the past. It's a book about contemporary integration of the world of the living and the dead. It's something worth reading if you are really interested in what we call the writing, African writing, on the type that quite challenging and a very interesting story. Won the Booker Prize in 1991, and it's a great book. Now, the music you listen to in the background, is a song that features in my book of poems, The Jewels of the Yoruba Song. Now, the jewels are an attempt by me to bring to life some of the thinking of Yoruba musicians and their principles, their way of life, what they inhabits the mind, how they tell the story of the community, the society they live in. This specific song is a tribute to the great Yoruba king, the Alaafin of Oyo. The song was composed in 1977 on the occasion of the crowning of King Sunny Ade as the king of Juju music. And the crowning was done by Oba Adeyemi, who was then a dashing young king. Now, one of the things that I find really very exciting and very important in music in Africa is that they are socio-biographical. They tell the story of the times of the people. They talk about the lives of individuals, especially the praise singing and the mentioning of names. So if you want to, for example, go to any community, let's say go to Yoruba land, for example, and you want to do a biography of certain individuals, you might find that they've been mentioned in many albums, in many songs by the great artists, and they would say many things about them. This song is particularly very poignant in that way. And I think what I should do is I should just take it back to a point where it is possible to get the feel for what King Sunny Ade was trying to do there. And I'll read some of the lines of the poem to try and convey the meaning, perhaps the essence of what he was trying to do. So I'm going to read my own interpretation, my own take on that point, on that song, which is a poem that I've titled Tribute to Adeyemi Alaafin. Of course, when you do this kind of work, you need to kind of put a nuance on it. So the poem opens with the words, Yokolu, Yokolu, the crowning has come, the detractors' mischief comes to naught. Yokolu, Yokolu. Now, in typical fashion, and you'll find it in nearly all the songs that I've written about in this book, that the Yoruba musician is one of those people where, by default, they have so many enemies, so many rivals. Of course, it's quite true, but the way they compose their music, first of all, is to acknowledge the blessings of God on their crafts and on their performances, and then also to thank their fans and their supporters, and also then they will start to praise themselves and indulge in their own self-affirmation to kind of keep the rivals at bay. And so this particular song opens with that thing. Yokolu, Yokolu. He's saying to his enemies, well, can't you see now? Yeah? Can't you see now? I've done it. I've got my crown now. I'm the big boy. And he then goes down, of course, to say that all thanks to God, Eledumare. And he does some praising. He says, God, whose thoughts are dauntless, and the goodwill of men and women, we bask, savoring the flavored founts of young and old. Our task, they are the rainbow of our success. But this particular part of the song where he's now doing the praising and adulating the great king is where you really see the beauty of the Yoruba language. And you'll have to be someone like Ben Okri to really get to do the best justice you can. But I've tried in my modest way to capture the essence of this praise singing of the great Alaafin of Oyo. And he talks about Adeyemi, I tremble before you. Atonda, I am prostrate before you. At your feet, I roll from side to side. Who dares to crouch awkwardly in front of you? What mortal belittles the throne of Alaafin? And he goes on to use such beautiful language in Yoruba to give praise to the Alaafin. Towards the end of the song, he starts to go a bit personal. I'm talking about the king's personal characteristics, what he has done, his family, his children, his ancestry. And again, it is that beauty that you find in the composition, the musical composition of these great traditional artists. They are very hardworking. They are really committed to their craft, and they also help us to tell the story of the community as it emerges through time. So just as Gnitavonni has done some work here about the great king and mentioned the names of people who were there at that event, it's a historical capture. And before we finish, I'll be reading another poem from the great female waka performer, Alaja Batile Alake. And that song that he performed, when I discovered it, was quite a surprise to me, because I didn't realize that traditional society could produce such music. And the poem is titled Women Too Want Loving. But I'll leave that for now. And let's go back to the next book we want to talk about. Now, in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of hoo-ha, a lot of issues about China and Africa. And the complaints about discrimination, racism in the context of COVID-19, and generally in terms of the adventure of the Chinese in Africa. So, how do we start to situate the Chinese adventure? What is actually going on? And some years ago, I came across a book, and it's called Mao, The Unknown Story. Now, it's a very chunky, big book, and you need to be quite interested in Chinese history, or in the story of one of the most shaped the last century. The story is about the life of Chairman Mao. Of course, Chairman Mao was the guy who took over in China in 1943, about 1943, and shaped modern China as it is now. His story starts, of course, in the late 19th century. The Time magazine, they call his book an atom bomb of a book. It's quite detailed. One of the main elements in this book is that for a student of history like me, and of course any contemporary commentator on modern history, on contemporary history, that helps you see the journey of the Chinese and why now they are everywhere in the world doing what they are doing. I think one of the things that many of us forget is that just like Russia and India, China used to be a huge empire. A huge empire that's dated back many, many centuries, but they were hobbled by the Industrial Revolution. They were overtaken and subverted by Western industrial society during the 18th, 19th century, when they basically were one or two steps behind. And so, and then of course, with the advent of communism in Russia, and all the forces operating that time with the imperial power of Japan, the Chinese basically lost their way. So what has happened now is that the combination of the story of China has come to be. China is now becoming a resurgent world power, and they want to claim their place in history. The structure that was left behind by Chairman Mao is still what runs China today. And what that means is that all the things that are documented here, the atrocities that were committed under Chairman Mao, and the strangulation of dissent that has become a central feature of Chinese society and government, means that there's a lesson for us in the contemporary world in how we interact and deal with China. So this book, I think, is a book that is worth reading in these times, for you to get into the mind of the Chinese state about what they consider to be valuable and important for their own journey. We got about, I think, about 10 minutes left or so on this show. And because we need to spice up these shows of music, what I'll do is that I will read this final poem that I was talking about earlier on. And this is the page from the book. Got an illustration there of a man playing some music to a young lady. And the title is Women Too Want Loving. And I'll read some of it. When your eyes meet mine, and we set a plan and place to dine, let us keep our message chaste, redeem the promises exchanged. Give me a sign and I will give you mine. Pele oju adorned with a sweetly smile. When your eyes meet mine at the door, tell me to raise my mounds of love. Take me behind the closing door. For the living, it is a labor, but for your love, give me a sign and I give you mine. Pele oju adorned with a smile. When I picked up this song by Alaja Batilelake, I think Alaja must be in her 80s now, and she wrote this song around 1985, 86, and this song is a love song. It is actually an exchange of promises between a man and a woman, and how they're going to sort out their love affair to the mutual benefit. But it was very strange because I never expected that such romantic expressions was ever captured in that way in a Yoruba song. So it's I will try and time later on to find the song and put a clip for you to listen to it if you speak Yoruba and understand Yoruba language, and you'll be completely amazed that the beautiful words, the beautiful language of Yoruba and the spirit behind it captures a lot more than what we take at face value. That while we think we're very conservative and people really keep to themselves, there's a lot more to the Yoruba philosophy of life than just what we think as conservative. So just to put a flavor to it, at the end, when this poem ends, it says, delightful the fate of the virgin flower, if graceful as a gazelle, must have a chooser, a husband with eyes like yours, and a chain of such and tender love. It's really beautiful words. Now, ask your viewers as we go forward and try to kind of fine-tune this experiment with talking about books. So it's not just me talking. I'm going to be looking at how we can have a discussion on the program, so you can contribute to the books that were chosen. You can recommend a book that you want, and you can then talk about it, and we can have a discussion and try and enjoy ourselves using some of our grey cells while we are in isolation or lockdown or whatever you want to call it. In the meantime, I think I will I'll put some of that music from that poem there. Last week we were talking about one of these books that I brought last time, and it's that book again called Never Too Late to Be Great. Now, this book, what I talked about last time, it's one of those inspiring books, Never Too Late to Be Great. If you can, get it. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Kindle, and you download it on an ebook format or an audio book. These are books that really refresh your mind and keep you going. They help you to really figure things out a little bit. It was this book that led me, to write my own book, Why Are You Here? Because when I was approaching the particular time in my life, I realized that I needed to be more focusing and to inspire myself and encourage myself. And that is what I did. And I put my thoughts down in my book called Why Are You Here? And Why Are You Here is just a summary of what I call the human context in the workplace. Because you matter in the workplace, in your career. And specifically, for example, I asked the question in the book. I asked the question, who are the others in the workplace? So, thank you very much, Mr. Adeniji, Shola. I think I need to get my glasses. All right. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. But I think the flavor of what we're trying to do, as I was saying earlier on, is that maybe by next week or the week after, once I get all the technical stuff sorted out, we can have a phone-in discussion, and we'll have to get the systems in place. But I think a more interactive kind of engagement would be quite nice to have. So that we can have people to submit a book, propose a book that they want to talk about, and we can do a short lists and found either the most contentious books or the least contentious books, the neutral books to talk about. As you've seen earlier on, we already mentioned this book by Chairman Mao, because I think the rise of China for many people is quite frightening and quite alarming. But you need to go back and look at the history, understand the mindset of the Chinese state, the Chinese democracy, as they call it, the totalitarian state or a pseudo-democratic state. What is it? One thing that I think is not in doubt is that the Chinese have an agenda, and the agenda for China was established by Mao, Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao was a nation builder, but just like his brother across the boundary, very ruthless man, and his activities, his decisions took the lives of millions of Chinese people, especially during the time of what they call the Cultural Revolution in the late 60s, and where, I mean, you need to read this book. The Cultural Revolution was put forward as an opportunity for the Chinese people to bloom. It was phrased by Mao that let your flowers bloom, let your ideas flow. Unfortunately, if your ideas were not the right ones, you ended up in a gulag or somewhere, or you just get killed and your family perished. So many officials, many other citizens of China were murdered, were finished off in camps, because they proposed supposedly crazy ideas. So that's China. It is still the same in China today, and that is why, for example, in December 2019, it was possible for a doctor who alerted about a coronavirus, COVID-19, was silenced, and he ended up dead, of course, from the virus itself. So China is still the same under Mao. As it was then, so it is now. But what does that mean for the world? What does it mean for Africa? Many countries now in Africa are indebted in billions of dollars to China. The Chinese are not nice people in terms of the agenda they have, what they want to do, what they want to achieve globally. They know their place in history and they want to claim it back. That is my belief. That is what Chairman Mao believed. And they're here now, operationalizing what are we going to do about it? What is the response to it? Have we got a choice? Do we have any escape? Or are we just going to be victims of this, or just going to be the pawns in this game? Now, let me just thank everyone who's talking today. Oluwaseunfunmi Aroloye, Ambassador Collins Archipiers, thank you very much. Michael Adenoga, thank you very much. Ademiju, my in-laws, thank you very much. Femi Shoko, thank you. Olambo de Winsala, Senior Winsala, thank you very much for calling in. Shola, Professor Brown, my fellow writer and co-conspirator, thank you very much. My cousin Richard, the Prince, thank you very much. And Adewale Adeniji, thank you very much. So, after what we've gone so far today, but I think we need to have an interaction. We need to have interaction in terms of let's talk about these issues. Let's engage our minds, and perhaps if we are lucky someday, we might get an interesting writer or a poet or just an essayist come on our show and join us to discuss these ideas. But I think what we're trying to do here is to look at what people have been doing, and nothing exists in a vacuum. As Yoruba people say, there is nothing new under the sun, and therefore what we can do is to kind of refocus, to rearrange and conceptualize and contextualize, put things in the frame for today. But as we do that, let's also have some fun, which is what we're going to be trying to do by putting some music in as we talk about the poems in my collection, Jewels of the Prodigal. I also have another interest. Another interest I have is also life in the diaspora. So if you look at this book again, you find that the last chapter talks about it's got this picture of Coming to America by Eddie Murphy from that very special film. Also got a picture here of George Orwell, Down and Out in Paris and London. And that chapter is called Why Are You Here in the Diaspora? And I'm sure for many of my viewers, for many of you guys who live in Nigeria or live abroad, it's always that yin and yang, yin-yang, push-pull, them, us thing about people in diaspora and people at home. And what does that mean? So I think all that means is that we need to be able to say to ourselves, we're happy doing what we're doing. If we are not, what are we going to do about it? So on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching today. But I promise that next week it'll be a much better show, because I'm looking forward to hearing voices, getting some interaction amongst us. So from me in my latest studio with my friends here, you can see what is my friend is an art piece that I've got here. So from me and her, it's good night and have fun. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Look after yourself.